We are back. It is happening. Matt Pink, aka Better Life Guy, is with me this morning.
Made it.
He made it after your shocking.
Absolute howler. Got on the motorway, made it about half a mile, shut, stood still for an hour and a half. Oh, but I'm here now. That's all that matters.
He's here now, so I'm not all by myself. If anyone saw me singing and crying my heart out this morning, my empty chair after saying like, who's going to be here? Matt's right. To be fair, we've just had a lovely cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We've caught up with each other, waxing lyrical about all things alcohol-free, and we thought we'd pop back on to do this live. We're going to turn it into a bit of a podcast, so we're going to get a bit of Matt's backstory for anyone that doesn't know Matt already, aka Better Life Guy. If you're on Facebook, Matt is Better Life Guy on Facebook. Do give him a follow because his stuff is brilliant. I know many of you already know him from Instagram, where he's really prominent. Has got a brilliant page and a wonderful message. Less so on Facebook. So if you're following on Facebook, do follow Matt.
Give me a follow. I'm just getting started on Facebook and I'm excited to get stuck into it. But yeah, I've been put all my attention on Instagram. So now my strategy is to move on to Facebook, and there's nothing better to get a little leg up from you, mate.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so what we thought we'd do is, let me just check. Oh, actually, I just want to do this quickly. I just want to check that I can see. Oh, perfect. So we've got a few people on.
Oh, nice.
He's behind you. All right, everyone's talking about your hair because I've been promoting your hair all morning.
Oh,
I said
mate.
you've got the best hair in the alcohol-free space.
Yeah,
Look at it.
I mean, I have, to be fair. To be fair,
Look at it.
I have. It's what I'm known for.
It's solid. That is a solid. It's known as a solid barnet.
Yeah.
He's behind you. Yeah, we're having a bit of pantomime at the moment. Thanks, Chris. We got that. So what we thought we'd do is we might turn this into one of our podcast episodes. So we're going to get a bit of Matt's backstory, if that's okay. He's got a brilliant story. Again, for those that don't know Matt so well at the moment, it's just a nice excuse for us to catch up. We've got loads in the pipeline, by the way.
Yeah, we certainly have, mate. I'm so excited about everything we talk. Every time we get together now, I'm just like, bum. We come out of like 5 new ideas that are rock solid. So yeah, we have got loads in the pipeline.
Yeah, it's exciting times ahead. So you'll see a lot more of us together doing these type of things because we enjoy it. We've become good friends. We're hanging out together. We've got the same ideas around trying to inspire people. So on that note, we'll roll into a bit of an interview, a bit of a chat with Matt, and we might strip that out and make it into a podcast episode. On that note, the podcast is coming on Wednesday. Don't forget, you can join the priority list and get loads of free stuff by clicking the link in Facebook, or you can go to Linktree on the Instagram, which is in the bio, and sign up to the priority list there. That'd be fab. And then help us promote it, and maybe we'll put it into the stratosphere. That is my favourite word around podcasts at the moment. Cool. So Matt, what has brought you to this point? Where did it all begin?
Wow. Right. Okay. So I suppose my life generally is always about. I was brought up in a family of traditional British family where, like, my dad was a drinker, my mum was a drinker. At weekends they'd have family barbecues. You'd see everyone having loads of fun, and then that's kind of what I wanted to be when I was older. So when I grew up and I had my first barbecues and I was an adult, I was like, this is going to be great. And I kind of like got stuck in, followed my parents in the way that they were, and kind of invite people over, started drinking, and just lived basically a similar life to what my parents did up until the age of about my mid-20s. I got married, had children, had a boy, had a girl. And when I was 30 years old, I thought like my life was sort of made, married, 2.4 children. And then tragedy kind of struck. My son died. He died suddenly of sudden infant death syndrome, which is also known as SIDS, which is also known as cot death. But it was very old for cot death. He was nearly 5 months old.
Wow.
So life then changed dramatically for me, and my relationship with alcohol changed dramatically as well, because
From that moment, or trying
from
to
that
deal
moment,
with that?
because I always had a traditional relationship with alcohol in terms of I didn't really need it, I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I went from a want to a need in that moment. It was my go-to.
It's just the sort of crutch.
What do you do?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. I kind of, I drank my way through it a bit, and kind of through those horrible dark months. I then found myself running because I'd had enough of drinking. I started running, and I ran the London Marathon in his honour in 2015, which was great. It kept me going. It gave me something to focus on. It gave me something to work my mind and the drinking kind of took a bit of a back step. And that kind of really helped me for that whole year, really, of training and through the event itself.
Just on that, did you get any other specialist help around that?
So I was fortunate enough that I was with some of the best counsellors in London, provided by my company at the time. But I bailed out of it because I sat in a room and I was talking to someone I didn't know. I felt like he was talking about my boy who he didn't know. I couldn't relate to him, and I tried and it just wouldn't work for me. And aside from that, obviously, the only other help you really have are your friends and family. Your family, one thing people don't know about this tragedy and this situation is that your family are going through it as well. So you can't then lean on my wife at the time, my mum, my dad, everyone's grieving themselves.
That usual network is not really available to you because they're all going through the same process.
Exactly. So then, as a 30-year-old man, you're just thinking, do you know what? I'm going to have to take this by the horn. I'm going to have to run with it myself. I've still got to provide. I've still got to put a roof over my daughter's head and my wife's head at the time. And I've got to be the strong man. So I kind of I found the running really helped me because that meant I had something to focus on. And because it was for him, in his name, with his name on my vest, I felt really strongly about it. I wanted to do it for him. So I had to focus on it. And I did it. And in 2015, I did it and I ran it. But the moment I finished that finish line, I'd obviously had enough of running because the training plans for that, and I was kind of glad that it was over. But what I then found was that grief kind of crept back in, because it hadn't been dealt with, properly. It'd been masked over by running, and then from that moment, I really just went for the shortcut. I was tired of running. I was tired of doing things properly. I went for the shortcut. So I started drinking more. And I was drinking more regularly. I was drinking most nights. I've always been based around the West End of London, which is, as you know, party town. So it's quite easy to immerse myself.
It's easy to just sort of and no one would even pay a blind bit of notice. They'd assume that was perfectly normal to go out a lot.
And they're pleased to have you with you because they're like, oh, come with us, great. Oh, you come with us tonight, oh, great. And then before you know it, you're at every party in the West End, and that distracted me and also masked the problem. I think some of the early advice I got was great advice, but it was like time is a healer. And I remember thinking to myself, right, if time's a healer, then fuck it, I'm just going to drink my way through time. Because the more I drink, if I go into these holes where I just disappear,
blot it out for all of that period, and then hopefully you'll wake up in 2 years and it'll be done.
It'll be great. Great strategy that is. But at the time, that was what I genuinely thought. So I went down that rabbit hole. And ultimately, everything sort of tumbled from there. So I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't performing, I wasn't a good dad, I wasn't a good husband, I wasn't anything other than just this drinker trying to black out these days and pass the time and tick off the calendar, basically, till this magical day when everything will be all right. Obviously, that never happened. A few years later, got divorced, and lost everything. Kicked out of my own house, had nowhere to sleep, had a bag of stuff. And that was it. That was me. And I kind of had this weird moment where I felt a bit of relief because I felt like I've been trying so hard to do everything
just to keep it hold it together.
Yeah, and I'd lost it. I'd lost it all, and I was kind of all right with it in a really weird sort of way. And then I suppose from that moment on, once I had nothing, I was kind of at nothing, and for a period of time, I continued to do the same thing. For the weeks that followed, obviously drank even more. I was doing drugs, I was smoking, I was doing anything. With nothing to lose. I was kind of that self-destruct button. Because I thought, no, it really was suicidal. I didn't want to be here anymore. I thought, I've lost everything. What's the point? And really, just so sad, deeply. Because I just wanted to be my boy, and that was what I was doing. I was on a bit of a one-way mission to try and get.
Just while you're on that, because you said something earlier that's really important, that it was that sense that I just got to get on with this like a man and deal with it. And I guess that seems to be a common theme for, I think, a lot of men in general that really suffer, that do end up taking their own lives, for example, where they don't feel there's an opportunity to share or be vulnerable or deal with their emotions. They sort of you had the opportunity, you got to work with some brilliant people, but you pushed them away and tried to deal with it via the fast track, which is blotting it out through alcohol, and then you find yourself in this position that is a dangerous position, in truth. That you're lucky, really.
It's a perfect storm, isn't it? It's a perfect storm. I think exactly that. I think there's nothing out there, and I think I understand how people take their own lives. I never would have done before. I thought it was a selfish act, but having been there myself, you don't have anything else. You kind of lost everything, and you just think, as a man, you think you failed.
Yeah.
You make it or you fail. There's no middle ground. It's the same with counselling. You go to a counsellor or there's nothing. Same with drinking. You go to AA or there's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we can come in and kind of provide that middle lane drinking. I think that's the same sort of strategy with counselling, but story for another day. But at that kind of rock bottom moment, if you like, I had a really weird experience. I'd been to see a spiritualist at kind of my luck. So after the counselling, I went to see a spiritualist, and I'd always thought spiritualists, a load of nonsense. My mum had been, my sister had been, they told me all this stuff. Oh yeah, someone came through, it was my nan. Of course it was your nan. She, obviously, that's an easy win for the spiritualist.
Right,
She's going to say that. So I thought I had nothing to lose. I went to see a spiritualist, and she was amazing, and she did connect me with him. She didn't know who I was or anything, and there was a connection there. And it was like a point of contact, if you like, and it was really nice and felt really nice. And after that experience, I said to her, "When can I come back?" I was crazy. Let me come back. And she sort of held my hand and she said, "Don't worry, if we ever need you, we'll come to you." I thought, at the time, that's weird. Anyway, that was a few months down the line. At this rock bottom moment, I was outside a pub off Regent Street, outside a bar off Regent Street, having a drink, having a fag, and just talking to my mate. I think I hadn't been to bed. I was just a right old mess. Really was like rock bottom. And this guy appeared out of nowhere, and he came up to me, and he was like, "I need to speak to you. You need to stop everything you're doing. You need to stop your bad habits. You're going to be a successful guy in life, but you need to take ownership for yourself. And he gave me this bit of paper in my hand, and it was screwed up bit of paper, and he held my hand the whole time he was talking to me. And he was like, you're connected to a flower. I can see a flower in your life. My daughter's called Lily. You've got this person in your life. You're not sure if you want to get into a relationship because you don't know if you commit, but you've met this person. I'm getting the letter K. The girl I was seeing at the time, Kirsty, who's now I'm going to marry. And he was saying that you've got no brothers, but you've got 2 sisters. You're going to live a long, long life, but you need to lose these habits. And he was going like this: these habits, stop. They're going to make you very. You've got a crossroads, and you need to take this road because you're going to be very successful. And he kept saying the same thing over and over again. And he gave me like directions, like stop drinking, do this. And I was at this point, I was like, wow. And because he'd connected me, and he brought up all these things that were so true. And it wasn't like things you could Google about me.
Yeah, get off the internet. So he walked up to you random
off the street.
This is like mind blowing.
It's honestly crazy, and I never would have been, a year before, I never would have thought. If I'd
been skeptical, and this
in fact, my mate was with me, stood next to me, Ryan, and thank God he was, because I still say to this day,
did that happen?
It because it was like he disappeared afterwards. The bit of paper, I opened it, and it had like where it said K, it said K equals Kirsty. Where it said flower, it said flower equals Lily.
No,
and all these things, and
that is just so like mind blowing to me. But equally, I absolutely love it, and I'm hearing more and more of this type of thing, or people that have these ecstatic experiences, where they, it's like this godlike spiritual moment that affects their life for the next 2 or 3 years. Jules Evans is one that's been on the podcast, and this is a similar thing. There's got to be more to this.
Yeah,
it meets the eyes.
And now that's helped me get a leg up into spiritual, like the spiritual world generally. But I buy into it. But from that moment, that was it. I was like, right, I need to call Kirsty.
Right.
So I called Kirsty, and I met up with her, and he kept saying she's going to be really good for you. She's going to be really good for you.
Yeah.
And she was really good. Suddenly I had someone who I could speak to, who I liked, who was completely impartial. She didn't know him. She didn't know Rocco. She didn't know
Rocco.
me.
Take your son's name. Yeah.
She didn't know him or anything about it. So she just was someone who I connected with, who I liked, who I could talk to, who was external from the situation. Suddenly I was like, bleh. So every night I was speaking to her, I was crying, she was crying, we were crying, and it was like I could feel like my neurology changing. I feel like I was letting things out, and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm on a bit of a comeback here. The comeback's on. So the more I was talking to her, the more I was feeling better. And then gradually I started taking a break from alcohol, because I was like, I'm not sure I need it. I feel like a bit better.
Why do I need this?
I joined a gym. I was sleeping better. I was eating better. I was feeling better. And then, like gradually, my breaks from alcohol went from sort of a weekend, which was massive for me, to a week, to 2 weeks, to going up to try doing dry jam for a whole month. And in that time, I started thinking, this is good. Like without drinking is amazing. Because I'd had such a hard time of drinking. I felt all that physical, I'd had heartburn, acid reflux, dry skin, just generally feeling like 2 out of 10 all the time.
Your body was just breaking down almost.
Yeah, awful. Everything about that was awful, but I didn't know because I was inside the jar. And then it was only when I started coming out of it, I could see what the benefits of it were. So
as you were looking back in, because you used that analogy. Explain that analogy. I like it.
Yeah. So I always say, like, people that are in the jar, you can't be held accountable for that you do not know. Basically, when you're in the jar, you can't read the label. And I think it's only when you start getting a leg outside the jar, putting a leg over the end of the jar, then you start really understanding that whole world that lies outside of this one jar. And I think it's just an analogy I use, but it works really well for me.
Yeah, it does, and I like it as well. We were talking about it this morning, that when people are in the jar, i.e. they're knee deep in alcohol, our messaging just won't land.
Yeah,
they won't hear it. It doesn't make sense. It's not until they've got a little foot just over the edge. It's like, what are they saying again?
Yeah.
It's alcohol-free stuff.
Sober, curious people are the people with the leg over the jar.
That's it.
That's it. Don't roll off the tongue, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, and then that was it. So then you came into my life at that point. A few people. I've been that whole law of attraction or whatever you want to say, but I'd started noticing people that didn't drink. When I was at parties, I noticed people that wouldn't drink. When I remember being in a bar and someone was drinking a 0% beer. And I remember ego was like, oh, what a load of shit. I bet it tastes like shit. It tastes like piss. Beck's Blue, what's that? I thought it was just Beck's Blue. That's all. I didn't know anything else because I was just completely obnoxious. But I was curious. And then someone said to me about you, and I saw. I literally sat on. I've said this story to you before, but I put on my phone your Rich Roll podcast. And I remember specifically lying on the bed. I remember looking at it. I'll watch this quickly, but I remember seeing it was an hour and 36 minutes long, or whatever it was. And I thought, well, I'm not going to watch an hour and 36 minutes because I don't want to hear that much. I just want to see what it's all about.
Just get to the point.
But an hour and 36 minutes later, I'm like, I'm going to go sober.
Get in there.
And so that was it. The first person, and the thing with you that I could relate to was, I thought people that went sober either had a problem or they weren't in London. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the West End every day. And you were in the city every day. And I was like, hang on there. And not only were you in the city and you were in London, you get it, you were making the most of it. And I'm highly ambitious in life. And you were like, the way you were telling the story about your brokerage and Thursdays and Fridays. And I know what it's like. People just don't go to work. They go for a beer at lunch. Yeah. They don't go back. And there's opportunity in that. And you were making the most of that. And I was like, hang on a minute, there's an opportunity in life. If you're not drinking, there's all this money to be made. There's always people to help. There's always life to live outside of it. So it's like a double win. And once I saw you, I started following you online and I started talking to more people online. I started reading your book. I read more books. I got stuck into the personal development space.
Brilliant.
And then I was off. And then I didn't specifically plan a day or a date to give up. But on April 21st in 2020, right in the middle of lockdown, I think I tell the story as well. I tell it in my book. That I was like, when everyone was going to lockdown and buying toilet roll, I was literally in a line of people in the store buying toilet roll, and I was buying like just 2 baskets worth of booze, and there was a limit on how much booze you could buy because everyone was panic buying. And so I was going from store to store to buy to load up beer in here, wine from there, vodka from there, because at the time we didn't know how long lockdown was going to last.
No toilet roll.
And no toilet roll. No toilet roll. So at that point I was like, okay, so I think I got a bit of a problem. And I was also at the stage where I was having a week off alcohol, but I was also caning alcohol at the weekend. So I'd split my life in half. So I was like,
and this is after you'd met that guy, this sort of spiritual.
This was after the guy into me and Kirsty went down, living together. I was seeing your stuff, but I still hadn't had the bollocks to give it up, if you like.
Yeah. But it was in your mind.
It was in my mind. But at the same time, I was living the 2 lives really. I was living like in the week, or for 4 or 5 days, I was like cleaning my act up, reading, learning, writing, and then I was going on a 4-day bender.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's story, isn't it? When in that interim, transitional phase, that was how my life looked. It was all about study, all about learning, all about health, and then boom, departure from the wagon, and then it'd be 3 or 4 days. I'd just get over it, get back into the learning, get back into the fitness, and then boom, it's all gone again.
But it's conscious. I think the difference is conscious drinking is different to drinking. Like once I was aware of, I was Friday night, I was aware of what I was drinking, I was aware how smashed I was aware of how shit I felt. Then it was different. It was different for me. And I felt like I was ticking the days off then until I thought, I'm coming to the end of this here.
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in the end. that like comes from that being sober curious, comes from experimenting, comes from awareness, and then it's like even the bit of sort of perceived joy that you got from alcohol, that disappears as well. So then it's like this is all downside, no upside. Over here, fun side of the island is where the upside is, and then you sort of just gravitate towards it.
It's a tipping scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
All the fun comes from your alcohol, and then no fun comes from reading. But then the more you read, realise the fun. The more you do that consciously, it goes like that. And then bang, April 21st, 2020, right in the middle of lockdown, I was like, I woke up, I was like, I'm done, I've had enough. And I said to my missus, and I told a few of my mates, and my missus was really good. She was like, I'll do it with you. She's not like extreme like I am, so she can take it or leave it. And I was like, obviously that'd be super helpful, and she has. But I didn't expect necessarily her to do that. I thought, I can do it on my own. In my head, I knew I was doing it, but everyone I was telling was doubtful, except her. To be fair, they were like, okay, well, because they sort of
whatever,
unbelievable. Really, it is unbelievable, and even I understood why they were doubting it. But I do remember I called my parents, and it was quite. I don't know why I called them. Like as a 36-year-old man at the time, calling my mum and dad, but I FaceTimed them, and I was like, just so you know something, I've given up alcohol from today. And I was sort of a little bit of accountability, a little bit of,
I like that.
Just announcing it, putting it out to the universe. And once I'd done that, I could breathe a sigh of relief, set up my little sober app, and it was like one day, and I remember thinking, that, I hope when that's 1 year, I want that day to come. And then, just the process was there. That was it. I was off and running. And then from April to December, I was working on sort of getting through summer, getting through the lockdown, getting through Christmas, getting through birthdays, all that sort of stuff, ticking things off. And I was fortunate in a way because it was lockdown, so it wasn't like
the social aspect of it, of being in the West End, and all those temptations were sort of removed from that period. And how was there any big obstacles even in those early stages?
Not really,
I think you've probably done a lot of that in advance. I think that's the truth in a lot of people's stories. I think by the time they go, right, that's it, I'm done, they've sort of done all their hurdles and that sober curious period and experimentation, and then it's done. Whereas I think the sort of mythology is that people say done back here, do you know what I mean? And the truth is there's normally a litany of sort of false starts and stops and never agains, and then it's done. That was my story as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And I'd given up on the April 21st, and Rocco's anniversary of his death was on the 24th. And one of the reasons I think I did it around then was because I was at his grave a few days before I gave up. And I remember thinking that feeling of like his anniversary's coming up, that dread, and his birthday's coming up in December, dread. Like any times like you just think, and they're pretty much split evenly throughout the year, so you've always got one coming up.
Yeah.
And I just thought, do you know what? Because in the last few years at that time, I just drunk my way through that whole weekend, been horrible to myself, and really I punished myself for it, and just got over the line. And
do you think that's a bit of it? It feels like I could imagine how that would come from. For some strange reason, you want to just like that frustration and anger of something that was out of your control. You almost want to beat yourself up for.
I don't know why, but you just do. Yeah. You're just so angry at the world initially, and that obviously worn off now because I look at it differently. But it's definitely anger. It's anger. It's frustration. It's everything. You just think it's cruel. You still deeply pine just to be with him. It's like that painful scenario. And also the difference between his birthday, the contrast between his birthday and the anniversary of his death. Because on the anniversary of his death, you can't help but think of that day, which was awful, obviously. On his birthday, you can't help but think this would be his birthday.
It's celebration.
It's different there as well. So, I think that actually doing that sober felt so much better than doing it drunk.
Just trying to blood it out.
And that was the first few days of sobriety. So to getting that one over the line, then put my birthday's in May, that was fairly easy. And then kind of I was on a bit of momentum then. And even it was like I was thinking about Christmas, I wasn't really that. I think I've just live in the benefits. I live in the world of I enjoy my sleep every night. So I enjoy what I eat every day. I enjoy the weight I was losing. I enjoy the energy I have. And that scale that had gone and tipped was now like this.
Yeah, and now it's starting to take off as well.
It's taking off. Why am I going to go backwards now?
Yeah.
So there was no real, and also the alcohol-free world, I was exploring it. And I found that really interesting as well because I'd never touched, like I said, Beck's Blue was all I knew. So I was like going into Tesco's and Sainsbury's and finding out was different alternatives and enjoying trying them every weekend, and making a really big thing out of that as well. So I was quite enjoying the newness of it all.
Yeah, just the alcohol-free space, and even you've caught it at a really interesting point in time because it's building loads of momentum. There's lots more alcohol-free alternatives. There's more people talking about being alcohol-free, and it feels like it's becoming way more sort of mainstream and accepted than it was 7 years ago when I began,
100%.
for example.
And then got to Christmas, and then kind of lockdown hit again. And then January this year, I was on furlough. The world was in lockdown, and a lot of people were messaging me on my own Instagram saying, like, you look really good. I'm really curious about what you're doing.
Yeah.
What are you basically? What's the secret? And also, what's this sober thing about? Are you really sober? Blah blah blah. So I thought, do you know what? I'm off. I'm not doing much. I'd spent the last year, by the way, writing a book. Since I'd given up, there's another thing to focus on. So I've been writing a book about my journey because I found that really quite cathartic and also a distraction and something to do, and I was really getting something out of it. So I'd done that for the whole year, and then in January I thought, shall I launch an Instagram page which could be based around this and kind of really just showing hints, tips, tricks on sobriety, like living, breathing it, and sort of sharing the wisdom and sharing how I've done it, and in the hope of helping others on loosely based on what you do, but kind of different as well. I did a poll on my own Instagram. I was like, shall I, yes or no? And like 150 people said yes. Like 2 people said no. I thought, I'm going to do it. So Better Life Guy was born.
Better Life Guy is your acronym, or no, what's it called? It's you're also known as the Better Life Guy. AKA, let's just do it that way. Yeah. AKA Better Life Guy on Instagram and Facebook. And it's brilliant. I love it. For anyone that's on Facebook, check out Matt on Instagram and also on Facebook because it's going to be on there a lot more. But it's just a brilliant page. It's really uplifting. It's really bright. Matt Pink is your second name. There's a lot of pink that goes on, but I love it. Sorry, carry on.
That's all right. It was going to be Matt Pink No Drink. That's how I was going to do it. But I thought, you know what? I don't want to just be known for not drinking because, like we were saying this morning, there's so much more to not drinking is the first point of call.
Yeah, that's
then
right.
It's mindset, personal development, nutrition, everything that comes with it. So I wanted to be called something that like
was aspirational rather than sort of stuck in the negative. Yeah,
as well. Like so, Better Life Guy. I thought I've got a better life. I want to help people get a better life, and I'm a guy. Right. So let's keep it Better Life Guy. Keep it simple. So that was born in January, and when I did it, it just took off. So and that's why I'm just been on Instagram because Instagram is what I was using, and a lot of the stuff that gets spat straight onto Facebook as well. So I am on Facebook, and now I'm starting to get my feet under the table with Instagram, get a bit comfortable with it, and be a bit more time savvy with it. I'm now able to move on to Facebook. So I'm really looking forward to bringing my content to Facebook because unfortunately the reels, the IGTVs don't get put on there. So
don't get put
the
on
real
Facebook.
good stuff.
Yeah, the really good stuff because it is brilliant. I absolutely love it. It's really inspirational. And I just want to wind back a bit to that moment where you started to build that momentum and people were getting in touch with you going, what are you doing? What's the secret? That is a really cool moment, isn't it? I think that reaffirms everything you've been doing when you go on this alcohol-free adventure. When you bump into that first person, they go, bloody hell, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is your secret? And then they find out and they're a bit like, oh, what's that all about?
Yeah, and I think it came at a really good time because I think a year before, if I'd have said I'd gone sober, literally I think people would have just laughed at me.
Right.
But I think there was that slight alcohol-free movement coming.
Yeah.
I think the alcohol-free market, I think, is a reflection of that. Yeah. I think when Beck's Blue was around only, that was when there was minimal people that were alcohol-free.
That was me. That was when I come into it. Was Beck's Blue or nothing.
Exactly. And now the fact that there's all these other brands doing it shows there is an interest in it. So I think there's definitely a curiosity about it, and people were generally curious when I told them. I didn't have any. I thought I was going to lose friends. I thought people were going to take the piss out of me. I thought I was going to have to change literally, and defend myself. But I didn't. Everyone was like really positive and curious, and I think that then told me that there's a market for this.
Yeah.
And there's a massive market for it because people want. It's that whole analogy, isn't it? Like if you could give someone a pill. Like, you could sleep well every day, you could look better, you could have more energy, you make better choices, food choices, you become a better dad, better parent, better worker. Here, just take that pill. That pill is available. Just stop drinking.
Yeah.
But no one wants to do it, or it's very difficult to do it. And that's where we come in and we can offer help, support in a different way, different from AA, different from anything else you see, really.
Yeah, I think it's that inspirational, aspirational approach to you're not giving anything up, you're getting all these advantages. And like we both said about that jar analogy, it's really to try and inspire all those people that have got just a toe over the edge of the glass going, what's this stuff? And we were joking about it earlier. I know this happens to me, and I'm sure it happens to you as well, that a lot of people will know what we do, but if they're in that drinking mindset, they don't want to watch it.
No.
So they're like, scroll past, there's Andy banging on about alcohol free again, scroll past.
Looking all fresh.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. I'm in drinking mode. And then a couple of weeks later, when they're in their alcohol free mode or they're tempted to take a break, it's like, hold on, what's he saying again?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's quite true. And I think that goes back to that bit I was talking about earlier, where people go through that sort of iterative process of off it, on it, that awareness comes, and then eventually that messaging gets through, and I think they're out the jar.
Yeah.
And they're looking back in going, what was I ever doing in there?
Yeah.
And then they fall into where we are now, and we both sort of see it so differently in that we're looking at people in the jar going, you're in the jar.
Yeah, get
All
out.
you got to do is get out.
Get a leg out.
Come over the fun side of the island with us, and you'll see it for what it is. That's why I think a big part of, what we did with even One Beer and whatnot is trying to encourage people just to take a break so they can get a bit of time outside the jar to figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas most people never ever come out.
Yeah.
They're just stuck in there.
Exactly.
They don't get a chance to go, actually, I feel much better over here. And I think that's why your messaging and what we do is really important, and why we need more people doing it.
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of niches. There's squillions of people just need that experience. Once they're over there, our work is done.
Yeah.
And then it's on to the next stuff. Then it's on to self-development and all that exciting stuff that you've got coming down the line. So tell us more about sort of what's next. You've obviously got this brilliant momentum behind you, predominantly on Instagram, but Facebook is coming around the Better Life Guy. What's coming in the pipeline?
So my book is written. I'm in the painful process of editing. Final editing.
That is hard, right? Anyone who's done it, I know. It's when you've read your own writing about 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Like I said to you, I actually like it. I think that's a good sign. I'm hoping, when I was reading it again yesterday, I was like, this is actually quite good. And you forget that you've written it. You're like, that was good. That must have been a good
when did that happen?
So the book is written, it's editing. I'm trying to get it out. Well, I've got a publisher working on my actual book cover and all that sort of jazz. I'm aiming for September the 6th, because that was the day I started writing it. I started writing it before handwritten. On September the 6th,
So
I
you
bought a
started
laptop.
to handwrite.
Yeah, handwritten.
Oh, that's powerful.
Well, what I did it in a way of like brainstorm. So I handwritten all my chapters,
Right,
and did like a brainstorm of each chapter, what I
Got
wanted
it.
to cover. And then on September the 6th, I bought a little MacBook.
I thought you were going to say a typewriter then. I was going to go, he's writing the note, he's got a typewriter.
And then I started banging it out, and I took it on this Saturday, and we went on holiday, my first sober holiday in Turkey in September. Took my MacBook with me, and I was just sitting there on holiday, just loving it, just bringing all my ideas that I've got on paper onto the computer.
Do you know what? That's funny you say that, because the first ebook that we ever released, which kickstarted the whole One Beer thing, was a book that I wrote on holiday in Dubai.
Was it?
Same thing. Brought the laptop and just banged it out for like 2 weeks, and then it was more or less done. That first ebook, and that was the thing that really kickstarted the whole movement in many ways.
Yeah. So that was what I did. So September the 6th, I started writing it officially, and then I want to bring it out on September the 6th. I think, why not? It's a nice little date.
Yeah.
And also, I think with everything going on in the world, there's a lot of distraction. I'm hoping that business is normal then, everything's back to normal. I think people will find themselves going back into that old ways if they do, and I want to help try and avoid that. And then also I want to start a big movement from sort of January. I want dry January to be a big thing for me. Yeah. So I think the book will be out, it'll be established, and the idea of the book is really for.
Have you got a title? Or are you allowed to say title?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's Better Me, Better You.
Brilliant.
And the concept of it, obviously, Better Life Guy ties into that as well. But it's basically what I did and what my advice to you is through each chapter. So it's like literally. This is what I did, here's what you can do, and let's go away and do it. You don't need to necessarily write all over it. It's a one-stop shop. Also, you can use it yourself to sort of motivate yourself. It can tell you literally chronologically what you want to do. If you want to get a better life, if you want to base it on my model, you can give it to someone who you think would benefit from it. So it kind of is, that's the point in it. So on the back of that, I'm currently writing a online course, which will be basically bringing the book to life.
Love it.
And then from there, I mean, we've got world domination plans. I keep saying, but we've got some really exciting things in the pipeline, longer term, which I won't say any more about. But yeah, there's definitely something I want to do around actually working a workshop around alcohol free specifically, because my book is more about everything. Alcohol free forms a chapter of it, but I want to do something around helping people, whether it's like a 1 month, whether it's I don't know, a course that's
Yeah.
alcohol free specifically. Just I think people have accountability for it as well as like help and support.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And like we've said, I think the alcohol-free thing is the first port of call for many people to dip their toe into the world of self-development as well, because
Yeah.
maybe that's never been on their radar. It certainly wasn't mine.
It
You know, I was
wasn't
like
mine.
this super duper busy broker guy, and I even remember the book that changed my life, which is behind us, Anthony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, sat on my book like table next to my bed for months, and I remember looking at it clearly thinking, why do I need self-development?
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got it all under control. Don't you worry about me. I don't need to be told what to do. And it wasn't until the whole alcohol thing and that relationship with it, I was a bit like, oh, maybe I do. I'll just pick this book up and see what this big, gigantic guy, Tony Robbins, has got to say. And went, wow. That was like, and if there's an epiphany in my life, I think that was it.
Yeah.
That book.
I had the same thing with a podcast. I think I said to you before, where I was listening to podcasts, but it was all about sport, boxing, football, whatever it was. And I stumbled on I saw one that said Mindset Mentor, and I clicked on it. I wonder what this is, and it was the same kind of time. And I got on the train at the tube at King's Cross, and I got off the tube at Oxford Circus. It's 4 stops, Victoria Line. In that time, I listened to this one podcast. It was 10 minutes long. I got on the tube and off the tube. I felt like I was 10 times bigger.
Really, yeah.
I felt like nothing was a problem for me. It was the first time, any time in my life where I'd worked on my mind or I'd seen the benefit
or that you could work on your mind.
I didn't do anything. I just sat on the tube, and it was like, how mad's that? My whole life, I was going into a meeting that day, and I walked in like I was a new man, and that opened the door for me. So similar to your experience, that opened my door to then more podcasts, and then inevitably like book recommendations. I started reading. I've never really read before in my life, but now I read all the time. So that was how my door opened to personal development.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I think it's that route in, and then once you're in that space, it's like, oh, what next?
Yeah.
You know, what more can I do? You understand how your mind works and your beliefs works, and then that leads from one change to another.
Yeah.
Like you said, around your health and your diet and your fitness, and everything's been changing in your life, which has led you to this place as the Better Life Guy and massive things.
And and it's also just like realigning myself. That's where personal development for me, and that's what a lot of my work is, realigning myself with who I am. And I think I use this analogy of like, I think you're born into this world like as a pure soul, and you have this alignment that goes straight up. And I think as you grow up and you get to 1.5 years old, and your mum tells you to stop touching that, or you get told to not mess around with that, you start getting conditioned and you veer slightly offline. And then the more you meet the people, you get conditioned, you can't eat that, you support that team, you don't eat that, that's not what we do, don't say that, don't talk like that, this is how you speak. And you get conditioned further away. Then you start having other influences in your life, and maybe you start drinking more, whatever. You start becoming a person you're not really are. And I think the bigger the gap between who you truly are in alignment with who you're becoming, the bigger that gap is, the more you lean on substances, or you rely on things like, whether it's gambling, sex, drink, whatever, fill in the blank. You rely on that to fulfill you because it's like a false economy. And then I think when that goes so far this way, you then snap, whether that's through something happening in your life, divorce, illness, you're losing someone close to you. I think that's the point of break, where you sort of ping back a bit and you go, hang on a minute, I'm so far away from who I really am. I'm not even, why am I here? Why am I with this person? Why am I saying this? Why am I talking like this? Why am I drinking this? Why am I eating this? What am I doing? And it's that, you could call it spiritual awakening, you could call it enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, but that's the moment where you start working your way backwards. I think personally, that's the journey of life, is finding out who you really are. And I think that's where the work is, and that's where personal development is, and that is aided by sobriety.
I love it. That is absolutely brilliant, and I totally agree. I think it's that rediscovering your authentic self moment in life, and actually going alcohol free, I think is one of the essential routes to that. To remove all that noise. And like you say, you could end up way off course, and it's that working your way back through self-development and all the belief changes and developing yourself and your body, and you get back, and when you're in alignment with who you really are, you are like bulletproof. You're superpowered, I think, because then your message is congruent. You're living to your like core values and what's most important to you. And I think that's when people exude, like you do now, that sort of positivity and that congruency with your message. It's not fake, it's not pretend, it's like really real, even if you're not there yet, because it's not about being perfect, but it's that adventure back to that point, isn't it? I love that.
And I'd say that the only, like, meditation, for example, it's not something I practice every day. I'd like to, I'd try to, and sometimes I do for a few weeks. But when you get into a meditative state, and you feel that sort of oneness. I don't know if you feel that. I don't know if anyone watching feels that. That I feel like that's your true alignment. I think once you plug yourself back into your senses and where you are, you go back to where you over here a bit. So you get a taster, because nothing can bother you when you're in alignment. Nothing, when you unplug yourself from everything, you are at one with yourself, and that's the feeling I think I'm chasing. To live that feeling all the time. And I think meditation gives me the little appetizer, gives me the little tester, the taster.
And everything else underneath that you're doing now, between the nutrition and exercise. And that's why I think people go on this big transformation. And again, alcohol-free is often the route to that, because they start there and then go, actually, what am I eating? Like you said, ask those big questions. What is my meaning? What's my purpose in life? Like massive questions that very often we bury through alcohol. Because it's like, I can't answer that question. I'll just pretend that's never there. It's always there. And then it comes up and you can have a look at it. And obviously these things are unanswerable in many ways, but I think you start to figure it out for yourself. Maybe it's not a question that needs a firm answer. Maybe the meaning of my life and purpose is to gravitate back towards that alignment with who I really am, and then go out into the world as that person. And that in itself breeds meaning and purpose. And I think giving back to other people, I've always said this, is the fastest route to lifelong meaning and purpose. And I think that's what you've connected to. That's what I've connected to. It's like the greatest gift ever, that you can go out and do something on Instagram and get a message from someone saying, you fundamentally helped me. That, and that's got to be where meaning and purpose lives, I think, anyway.
Absolutely. And I didn't know that I was missing that. I feel like if you think of like a pie graph with a chunk missing, I think that's how I was living my life. I didn't know I had that chunk missing because I was in the jar. And now I've fulfilled that by giving back, and having my Better Life Guy account might be just an Instagram account to some, but for me, it provides me with something I've never done before. I give back to my kids, but at work, I'm there to sell. I'm there to, do. I'm not there to give back necessarily. And this provides me with that box that I didn't know needed ticking. And I completely agree with you. I think that brings you closer to your alignment, but also gratitude, I think, as well, coming from a place of gratitude and being grateful for where you are, being grateful for the journey you have, and being grateful, as crazy as it sounds, for Rocco and for that experience I had. I look at it differently. I'm grateful for the time I had with him. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for the way he's now made me this person I am today. I'm grateful for the connection I have spiritually, which has opened the door. And if I can use my bad experience but it helps many others, then generally it's a good experience for all. Do you know what I mean? I'm committed my life to that now, because then I'm doing it with him, for him, and I've got a spiritual connection with it as well. So it all feels very nice and comfortable, and it all feels like people are going to benefit from it.
Yeah, you can see it. It's exuding from you, that connection that you've now made, that you've taken something that was horrific, and I'm sure most people could never even imagine, and now you've brought it into this place actually of realignment with who you really are, so you can give back to the world. And like I've said very often, our biggest obstacle becomes our greatest gift, and I think that's exactly what you're experiencing. And I think what we'll do is we'll use that as a place to wrap it up, because I thought that was just a beautiful way to end. We'll do lots more of this. I'm sure you've absolutely loved hearing more of Matt's story. I certainly have. If you're on Facebook, do check him out on Facebook. Better Life Guy, Instagram, Better Life Guy as well. He's doing absolutely brilliant stuff. This is just the first of many. My first ever live in-person chat. No better person to do it than with Matt. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, mate. Thank you everyone for watching, and give us a little follow, and let's get on this journey together. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Fab. All right, we're wrapping up there. We've got about 8 things to turn off now. Right, thanks, guys. See you later on. See everyone.